Georgia from the Lanier County Advocate, and we're here for our latest installation of Tell Me a Story. I'm here today with Larry Moore. He's a local farmer and retired fireman, and he's going to tell us a little bit about how his family came to Lanier County. Go ahead and tell me about your family.
Okay, start with we were farmers. The Moores of my side of the family we've been farmers for hundreds of years. That's all we wanted to be. We never, as far as I know, there's never any doctors or lawyers or anything in our family, but things happened on the way while we were farming that maybe a little bit interesting to people. Start with, my family came from Ireland in the 1600s, but the one that I know specifically about is my great-great-great-great-granddaddy, Caleb Moore, came from Pitt County, North Carolina. He was in the Revolutionary War in North Carolina, and in 1798, after the war, he decided that he would come south. And of course, Georgia hadn't even been formed at that time. They were still, the Creek Indians still had Georgia, so it took him a couple years to come to Georgia, but he and his family came and they settled in Wayne County, Georgia, which was before Wayne County was even Wayne County. It was still just a territory over there then. And right after that, in the early 1800s, then they marked it off and had counties in Georgia. And he came there, and he had my great-great-great-grandfather, John Moore. He was born in 1790 while they were still in North Carolina, and he come to Wayne County and growed up around Wayne County. And after he got, in 1812, they had the War of 1812. So he joined, or I don't know if he joined or if they volunteered him, but he was in the War of 1812. Him and his brother were, in the historical records, they were mounted spies in the War of 1812. So they fought during that period of time, and after that, he decided, well, I want to get out of maybe wars for a little while. All this time they're trying to farm. So he goes to Florida. Well, Florida hadn't been, it was still in the Spaniards. The Spaniards had just released it to the United States, and the Seminole Indians were still down, sort of controlling Florida. So he goes down there and he has so much Indian trouble that after a year or two, he says, I'm going to get back to Georgia where there's maybe not quite as much Indian trouble. So he comes back and he settles in a place called Kettle Creek in Ware County, which wasn't Ware County at the time. Like I said, it hadn't been formed. But he settled in that part of the country, and he found out that there was just as many Indians there as there was in Florida. Matter of fact, the story has been passed down that he was out, they had some cattle, and he was out checking on his cattle one day, and a group of Indians got after him, and he ran, and he was so fast on his feet that he outran the Indians, and they finally just give up, and after that they called him Indian John. But then he left Kettle Creek and he moved to a place called Waresboro, which is on the outskirts of Waycross now. There, the records show that he bought a tract of land of 490 acres for $10. He sold it less than a year later for $50, which was a 500% profit, which would be good today, I think. Yeah. So he kept his family there. This is my grandfather, John. He kept his family there for another 2 years, and then they moved to Lowndes County, Georgia, which Lowndes County hadn't been formed, or had just been formed at that time in 1829. And he moved to a place that where Knights Academy Road is off of 221 right there, and he bought a lot of land. And he continued to buy land there until he eventually had 2,600 acres that joined where now Moody Air Force Base is, and up to Moore Crossing on about Civil War came along. Well, 5 of his sons, and I forgot to tell you now, all this time that he's doing all this, they have 18 children. Him and his wife, Nancy Osteen Moore. They have 18 children, and at the time of the Civil War, 5 of his children, his sons, joins the Civil War. And they go to their, the Georgia 26th Company, and they go to Northern Virginia under General Robert E. Lee. And they're directly under Stonewall Jackson. But during the war, he lost 4 of his 5 sons that was killed during that war. And also he lost 2 of his grandsons, which was my great-great-grandfather's sons. 2 of those were killed, plus a number of son-in-laws that were killed during that war. But John lived there at the place at Knights Academy Road from 1829 until his death in 1867. And they said that his sons getting killed during the war hastened, they think, his death, which he died at 77, which was pretty old at that time, I guess.
Yeah, he lost the majority of his male relatives.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But my great-great-grandson, grandfather, Allen Moore, like I say, he lost 2 of his sons. But going back just a little bit, during where he moved at, now on Knights Academy Road, there was an Indian trail that came through there, and they finally opened it up. They opened up the Indian trail, and it came from Thomasville, Georgia, through Troopville, which was the county seat of Lowndes County at that time instead of Valdosta, and it came through near Lakeland, and it went to Waresboro. That was an Indian trail. They opened it up, and that become a stagecoach road. But the stagecoach road came within 100 yards of his house there. So he got all the news. Any news that was going, he got it coming from the stagecoach. In later years, they turned that stagecoach road was turned into Old State Road, which is the same road that's there now. And on the maps, it showed it going right by his house. Matter of fact, his house burned down in 1963, the house that he raised his family in here. But anyhow, his son, which was my great-great-grandfather, Allen Moore, he comes to, which it was Lowndes County at the time, and it's Lanier County now. It's where Virgil Moore lived out on the Good Hope Highway. It's right in front of, he settled the place where Virgil's at right there, and in front of Virgil's, and he's buried out by himself in that, and stand of big oak trees out in front of Virgil's house, which I think John David Moore, which is, as far as I know, no kin to us, that owns it now. But anyhow, he was buried there, and then his son, which was my great-grandfather, Walt Moore, he was a farmer, and Allen was his daddy, and then Walt was his son, and he was a farmer in and around Lanier County. You know, before Lanier County was Lanier County, still Lowndes County had made it. They didn't make Lanier County up until about 1920. That's when Lanier County was formed. But all this time they was living there. And then his son, Frank Moore, was my grandfather. He was born in 1898, and he was a farmer in Lanier County. Then his son was Chester Moore, which was my father. He went off in World War II and fought in North Atlantic in World War II, and came home, and they bought, while he was in service, they bought this place that I live on now. So then, of course, I have Chester's son, and I'm still a farmer. My daddy was a farmer. I'm a farmer, which I was also a firefighter with the Georgia Forestry Commission and the city of Valdosta for 35 years, plus farming. And my son, which is Walt Moore, he's a farmer now. He farms the farm. And he's a teacher at Wiregrass in Valdosta at Technical College. And then his son is Jaden Moore, and he's the one that I want you to see the picture of. the picture of him standing at his great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather's grave.
And where is he buried, Dan?
He is buried on the CCC road between Valdosta and Lakeland, which was on their home. It was one of his farms. That's where he was buried. His name was John Moore.
That was John Moore that he buried there.
But the thing about now, he had 18 children. As far as I know, they did all the work themselves. They never had any slaves, or they never had anybody to do it. They did all the work themselves. And he had no formal education. Matter of fact, he couldn't even sign his own name. He had to sign with an X out of his name. But I think, and I'm proud of the way him and the rest of my family. I'm very proud of it.
So he didn't have John Moore did not have any formal education.
No formal education.
And still was able to purchase all that land.
He still was able to purchase that land. And I think he gave the ultimate sacrifice by losing 4 of his sons and 2 of his grandsons in the Civil War.